in terms of kind of macro or micro contexts, like does one start with a neighborhood, or does one start with a whole kind of province, or the whole country, something like that, then I suppose that would be a nice example of try both and start to see what happens. The fact that what we're doing hopefully ultimately will tie in to influencing policy, that was never the end, right? So the purpose of the project was an artistic intervention, and that is an end in itself. That's fine. If it ends up influencing policy, then that is phase 2, and phase 2 isn't important as much as what the project is about is to represent, support, and connect people. Policy and that whole issue comes afterwards, which is quite interesting as well, because your entry point or your starting point is very, very important. Maybe the policy bit isn't as important as the people bit. Maybe the people bit needs to come first, which is
good point.
Yeah. So the project, this is worth saying. The project, one of the reasons why I got involved in this project is because of internet cafes, and the area that we're dealing with happens to deal with is one of 3 internet cafe hubs in Johannesburg. So that's where I come from, and then this artist Terry Kurgan was doing something very, very different. It was an investigation into the area and life in that area for those people. We just happened to have connected because there was a phenomenon of the internet cafe in the area, and that became an idea as an interesting tool to start uncovering or unsurfacing life in the area. And as I said, policy comes afterwards. You need to start, it's like contextual inquiry. You know, you kind of need to get to grips with the users, the people living in that space. And then the issues around policy become interesting. To what extent did policy make that space what it is now? And to what extent can policy change that space to be something better or different? But you got to start by deconstructing or unpacking what is there. If you want to do that at a national level, well, that's complex.
Right.
So it becomes interesting to start small and moving out. I suppose the other thing that one could start looking at would be what you could perhaps also look at a lot of different localities. So again, when I think of Johannesburg, the area I'm talking about is an area that used to be demarcated as a white area under the Group Areas Act during segregation. In the post-apartheid era, because of the nature of the housing and its proximity to the inner city, it's, you know, all the white people have pretty much moved out, and now you've got black people moving in, and they are a mix of people, South Africans from townships and foreign African nationals, 65% foreign African nationals who've come from overseas, and it's created a very, very unique space. But that's just one.
Right.
So you might get another space in Johannesburg, which might be inner city, which might be more multicultural, but with a more concentrated economic agenda, which is why most people live in cities, as opposed to suburbs. And we've got really, really wealthy, largely white suburbs, and then just to throw a total curveball in, then we've got gated communities. You know, we've got these communities where wealthy people live, which were traditionally white. Now the new black elite is starting to move in there, but they're gated. They're completely cordoned off. You have to go through a boom to get in. And I mean, one of the ideas that I had ages ago was, well, wouldn't it make sense for a community like that to create these local websites that allow those communities to speak together? One of the reasons why I specifically chose not to continue with that idea or that train of thought is that I'm really against communities that barricade themselves. right? That disconnectedness
Right.
is exactly where we were in apartheid. And the point is to become connected.